Okay, I can mute it if you want.
That's okay.
No, it's fine.
It's the birds chirping.
It's okay. There was 2 dogs earlier that were just completely destroying each other.
Let's hide that. And yes, that's right. We've made it, everybody. The film Star Trek Beyond from 2016 is over. And it has been since 2016, but we're just getting started here on Live Long and Podcast. But we're also finishing here on Live Long and Podcast as we are completing our Star Trek movie rewatch series with, at least for now, Star Trek Beyond. Until the next Star Trek movie comes out, there's nothing directly on the horizons.
Do we get like a Purple Heart for this or anything? Or?
I think so. I think we all deserve a medal. And hey, and I think we also have to salute everybody here who are the last 3 soldiers on this battlefield, because Jeff's not here today. Jane's here, not here. The summer and priorities, I guess, are taken over.
The only 3 of us made it through every single one.
We're the only 3 with no lives.
Right, we're like those three people from the Franklin who ended up becoming Krall and those other 2 weird alien types.
Don't give it away.
Don't
get anybody would notice.
I've only seen the
spoilers for Star Trek Beyond, by the way, as we get into it. Yes, I'm Dave Mader. If I haven't introduced myself, we got Jody Simpson here, and we got Kevin Millard. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
And hey, Star Trek. So 13 movies in a row, 13 podcasts in a row. Here we are, and we with the evolution of the Star Trek movies, and I think we deserve to have sort of like a little time at the end, maybe to talk about how this movie fits in, and just sort of the whole thing as we go through the ratings. But let's do our due on this film. I know it's not necessarily this group's favorite. So much so that Jane and Jeff are just like, I don't even care to be on the podcast today. Ashley's like, I'll watch it from downstairs, I guess. So here we are, Star Trek Beyond. Guys, what do you think?
This
Kevin?
movie is aggressively boring. I feel like I've never seen it because I can't pay attention to it. It's so like it's a shame because the actors are better in this. They're better at their roles. Has nothing to do with them. The story.
Yeah, Chris Pine's like spot on in this one.
Spot on.
Yeah,
right. He's got him down at this point.
But it's so boring I can't even watch it.
Yeah.
Same thing for you, Jody?
It's a continuation of the Kelvin timeline. There's this movie tried to be funnier than the other 2. I think there was a lot of stupid gags. Like even the beginning starts off with a stupid gag. He's talking to some huge being, or at least you think it's a huge being, and he's like causes some shit, and then eventually they start attacking him. And they're little 1.5 tall little beings, trying to like eat him. Right? It's like
right.
It's all just silly. I'm with Kevin on this one. It's a movie where you kind of, as you're watching it, you literally are trying to think of other things you could be doing.
Yeah.
Like at one point while I was watching it last night, I was like, you know what? I gotta clip my fingernails. Maybe I'll do that now. It's
right.
Like there's nothing drawing you into keeping you into the story. It's just it's a very, very generic story. Everything you see coming. It doesn't matter what it is, you see it coming. Almost everything anyway. There is one thing that they didn't, but I'm with Kevin. It's perpetually boring. What's more interesting is the fact that this movie has more action than the other 2 movies combined. It literally is always nonstop action in this movie. They very rarely slow down, but it's so boring. It's just there's nothing to add to it. There's no value.
Right. Yeah. Like I don't disagree with a lot of what you guys are saying about this. Is that it's kind of forgettable. Now, I have not watched this movie since I watched it the first time in 2016. I watched it again this morning, but I have not watched it since that first time in theater. And
I think that says it all.
Well, yeah, it wasn't calling to me. And I think looking back on it, I think that there's some great ideas in this movie. I think that there are some things in this movie that are well executed. Mm-hmm. And overall, I like this movie better than I like Star Trek Into Darkness. But I don't necessarily.
We already know how much you hate
that Darkness, movie. Though. Yeah, I'd say I put this in sort of like the same category as I put like Insurrection, where it's kind of like it's fine, I guess. it's characters I'm familiar with. It's a Star Trek story. The spirit of it is there, but I don't care. This isn't like something I love or I need to come back and revisit every now and then, like I do with a movie I love. So and I think that I'm glad they made this movie, because I think if we had just gotten the 2 movies, I think we would have been sort of left wanting. And I think that we had to kind of answer the question is like, how much more do we want of this crew? I think we all agree that we love Chris Pine in these 3 movies. We think he's great in the role of Kirk.
This is the best one he's in out of the 3.
I think that the decline of Zachary Quinto as Spock is evident too in this movie. Like, you're just
really?
watching, you're like,
I thought he was better in this movie than the first 2.
He's less irritating. That's not the same thing.
The effort is he's dialed up the effort a lot, but like. Because the first movie is 2009. This is 2016. So this is like 7 years later, and like this relationship with Spock and Uhura 7 years later is just so like what? Now it's not. It's more. It's like 11 years for us having watched this. Since,
it's actually funny because out of the 3 movies, Uhura isn't fucking annoying in this one as she is in the other 2.
She's not.
The other 2, like.
She's good in this.
She's still in it a little bit, but she's like the captive essentially for part of the movie.
She's a lot of like 2-word lines or 3-word lines. Like she doesn't have a lot to say.
It's absolutely perfect. That's what it needed to be for her character. So this to me is the nemesis of the Kelvin timeline. This is well, to me, Nemesis isn't as bad as
you and I are flipped on this because
you're flipped the other way. So to me, this has a lot of there's some fun moments in it, and it's one of those things where it's like if you haven't seen it, you should see it. But are you going to rush out and go see it again or go buy it on Blu-ray or something? No, I don't think anybody.
I think too. If you take Jayla out of this movie, there's nothing. There's nothing.
And that kind of gets to one of my points because I don't actually really like that character. I like the actress behind her. She's been in some really good stuff. She was in The Kingsman. She was in some other stuff, but I like
have no idea who she is or what else she's been in.
Yeah, she's been in some stuff.
She looks really familiar, but I couldn't place her. Yeah.
She's always been kind of like a secondary henchman character kind of thing. She was never really like a spotlight character. So this is kind of her first real like kind of leading. Like she has more on-screen time than most of the other cast in this movie. So it's I just don't think she was like obviously she knows a little English and stuff like that. So it's going to be kind of spotty and stuff like that. I get what she was trying to do. I just didn't like the character at all.
But just the way like her little vocal tick, I guess, where she calls him Montgomery Scotty and hello James T and
she has to understand the English language. She doesn't get it, right? Sorry, Kevin?
It's the only good part of the movie. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I like her in this movie. I think she's actually a pretty interesting
I like how she plays off of the other characters.
By the end, you're like, okay, she's part of the group now, right? Like she feels like.
Well, you get the impression that she's going to join the crew, and on the next movie it's going to be great. But I don't know if we're going to get another Kelvin movie.
No, I don't think so.
It doesn't sound like it's going to happen.
Well, never say never. We could get who knows down the road, but I don't think in the near future. I think that they were going to make a movie with Chris Pine and with Chris Hemsworth, bringing back Chris Hemsworth as George Kirk. Just because Chris Hemsworth is a big star now, but that's not really what I need. And even the whole thing with like,
I don't need the whole Kirk backstory anymore. We've drowned it to death.
Version of Kirk has too many daddy issues, and I know that this is J.J. Abrams and this is the Lost universe, and they're all about daddy issues.
Everything's parent issues. Yeah,
everything's got there's an episode of Lost called "All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues," and you could see that like the creative team at Bad Robot really dials that in all the time, right? That's a main part of this Kirk character, and I don't want that. I don't need the next, if they ever make another movie with this group, because they can't even bring Anton Yelchan died after this movie. He was killed.
He died. He died just after the filming. Yeah.
So he won't be there, obviously. So I think that there's a little bit of like, it's not going to be really getting the band back together.
Well, and apparently the scene where Bones and Kirk are sitting in like the bar area and they stole the booze out of Chekhov's locker, that actually was added after he died. So that was kind of a tribute kind of thing, from what I understand anyway.
Yeah, I know. They had the 3 glasses there, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's why there were 3 glasses. It was supposed to be
Oh,
kind
so
of
that's the nod. So that was like a reshoot.
Yeah, it was like a reshoot. Yeah, but
Yeah.
and I thought it was done really well. It was a nice scene between the two of them. Further proves the fact
I was like, "Who's the third glass for?" And I was like, I was it for Leonard Nimoy, who had passed away at this point before the movie, and they knew that. And that's part of this story that the Spock Prime has died as well.
Yeah, like visually, this movie has some really nice, cool stuff in it. Like that big planet thing that's like a space station. I can't remember the name of it. But
Alda something or something like that.
Something anyway. Yeah, but like that was pretty cool done. You know, it was kind of cool to see the Enterprise going like, you know, through the tunnels that are underneath the water and stuff like that. That was kind of cool.
Right. Yeah. Like, so we can, I don't know. Yeah. We've kind of touched on a whole bunch of things. We can talk about it like scene by scene. I think we've established that this movie is boring. Star Trek boring.
It can be.
Boring.
But it's not necessarily bad.
I don't know if it's really boring. It's just, it doesn't
dull?
keep your attention at all. Like
dull.
It's just,
or what's the, I don't know what the,
it's not even dull. That's the thing that irritates me about this movie because it's got a lot of action.
100% aggressively boring.
Aggressively boring. See, I wouldn't use that term, but I get where you're going. But
I can't pay attention to it. I tried. But 8 minutes in,
that was the problem I had. Is you're sitting there and you're just not invested in this movie. You're sitting there and you're just like, you know, oh, next scene. Okay, well, this is going to get better now. And then you're like, yeah. And then it's like, well, you know, what am I going to have for dinner tomorrow? I got to probably plan that out. Like it's
your mind starts to shift.
Oh yeah, it's a very drifty movie. Like you're not engaged at all in the movie, as far as I was anyway. I can't speak for you guys, but I just was not engaged in the movie at all.
Yeah, I was more engaged this time. I think that this story worked better for me because, like I said, I hadn't watched it since the first time, and the whole like mystery with Idris Elba's character and who is Krall and why is he doing what he's doing, and him as the villain of this movie. Because the first time you don't know what's going on, and then now we know that he's actually this Starfleet officer from 100 years ago, was a Mako, and I find that interesting. And so I think on the rewatch I liked it more because I was watching for that stuff on the second go around. The first time you're like, what? And I didn't even realize that his 2 little like Krall's lieutenants were also Starfleet officers the first time I watched this movie, and I was like, oh, so. The one, like, what's her name with the weird neck translator thing on? She's also a human.
Yeah, I can't stand her, but anyway.
And then the guy who's killing her father, for Jayla's father, he's also a Starfleet officer human who's now mutated. So, like, the 3 of them survived the crash of the USS Franklin, and then they just became incredibly bitter against the Federation. And
so let me ask you something, guys. Where do we get the title Beyond from? Is it beyond the asteroid belt? Is that what they're trying to tell us, or like
Trek
where
beyond
is the
beyond the was it a nebula they have to get around to get to this planet or something?
Yeah, they have to go through like a asteroid nebula.
Beyond known space. I think it's just I think that they're using the trope of we're going to take that word Trek and we're going to, like they did in the last movie, start Trek into darkness. So now they're you're trekking into beyond.
Trekking beyond, maybe.
Whatever.
Okay. Like, it's a stretch, but anyway, all right.
It's not a great title.
I didn't really understand why it equated. Like there could have been better titles for this movie. I think.
I think it's just a safe. I think that's what they were trying to do. I think that Into Darkness was not well received, and I think they were trying to course correct.
You know what? You might be right on that. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just a safe play, and that's why it ended up just so kind of non-drawing and boring.
Right, because I think a lot of Star Trek fans were up in arms about Into Darkness and a lot of the decisions they took with that movie, and I think that this movie tries to go very much in the opposite direction, trying to get back to like, hey, Starfleet officers are explorers and diplomats and peacekeepers and all these things, and I think that like just in this opening scene with Kirk and these goblin alien guys that he's got to talk to, I think is kind of,
which was cute. I thought that was a neat way to start the movie.
You're like, oh, okay, yeah.
The thing I really like about that scene is, did you guys notice how much like Shatner he was doing in that particular area? Like he was really close to Shatner. He's even got like the head turns and everything. Like he's really trying to be Shatner in that scene. And I think it actually. Oh yeah, his hair is like
got like the big 70s. Got like the sideburns cut into those V's.
Yeah,
like Kirk, like the Shatner did.
But and he's got that moment where he's reflecting, basically like, we're 3 years into our 5-year mission. I'm kind of bored, blah blah blah. He's applying to go to Starfleet Academy and be a vice admiral or whatever there, which doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, this guy obviously is progressing up the chain pretty quick.
Yeah, he's only turning I think 29 in this episode, or in this, sorry, I call it an episode, in this movie.
Yeah, because they mentioned something about it. Yeah,
he hasn't even caught up to the age where Shatner's Kirk was when we first took command of the Enterprise.
We're talking different timelines, so that makes sense.
I know, but like, we're saying he's going to become a vice admiral by the time he's 30.
But they basically mentioned that he's now the same age as his dad when his dad died, right?
When his dad died, yeah, but his dad was in his late 20s when he died, and Kirk, James T. Kirk, Shatner version, was 33 when he took command, or 36, I think, when he took command of the Enterprise. I'm just saying he's a lot younger, and but he went from cadet to captain, so I guess this tracks. Then
it sounds like he could become a vice admiral. It's like,
well, and it's weird because he's talking to Commodore Paris. I was like, oh, since when do Commodores promote captains to become admirals? That's like,
what they should have did was not kill off what's his name in the last one, Pike, and kept him around, and that would have been a little bit more believable. But obviously, then you wouldn't have really much of a plot for the second one then.
Right, and the Commodore Paris apparently is a nod to the Tom Paris family.
Supposedly, yeah.
Supposedly.
It's supposed to be his mom or something.
Yeah, I know you guys don't love the uniform as much as I do, but they got a bit of an update in this movie from the previous two movies.
I didn't care.
You liked it better, or about the same? Or?
I would say better, but it's workable.
Because they've taken away that little pattern and the necks are higher and the shoulder pads are out, and
they're not as blingy.
What I also like about them is that the women who wear like the dress variant have long sleeves so that their rank shows on their sleeves, as they didn't in the previous. Like, I'm like, you can have. It'd be better if we had a woman here for this part of the conversation, but you can have like these like this female variant without it having to be like just an eye candy piece, because that's what I felt when they took the sleeves off the female variant in the previous two movies. It just looks like they're wearing a mini dress, like a mini skirt dress, which they are, but I want it to feel just more like they're part of the organization, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm being weird about it. Anyway, I know the uniforms are not your favorite subject, so we'll move on. They're fine.
They are in this movie.
Yeah.
What else are we going to talk about?
What else we talked about? We talked about his father's legacy and all this kind of stuff. Spock and Uhura. Death of old Spock. I don't want to gloss over this too much because it's Leonard Nimoy. Obviously, he had died about a year or so, or maybe 2 years before this movie came out. So when they were writing this movie, they acknowledged his death because he
died in 14.
They shoehorned him into Star Trek Into Darkness, where young Spock had to call, "Hey, did you ever meet a guy named Khan?" "Oh, I bet Khan. What? He was the worst."
Yeah.
It would have been better if Leonard Nimoy's Spock in that moment had been like, "Would you stop calling me every time you run into something?" Like,
that would have been amazing.
Would it have been great if he had still been alive for this movie and they called up, "Hey, can you ever meet a guy named Crawl?" Nope.
Actually, Leonard Nimoy died February 27th, 2015. So that would have been a year before this movie.
About a year, yeah. When they were okay, that makes sense. All right. So they acknowledge that the character of Spock has died again, the old Spock, and so this kind of has affected Zachary Quinto's Spock, but I don't really think that's
not enough that we care.
Not enough that we care. More so that I care more. I just want to acknowledge. Hey,
I do not give a fuck about Spock in this movie at all. Like, no. I just do not care.
But it's just like, hey, let's pour one out for when William Shatner Kirk dies in Generations. I guess this is kind of the on-screen acknowledgement of the death of Spock. And hey, see you later. You are missed for sure. And Yorktown is a starbase.
That's right, Yorktown. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So cool. Neat.
I thought it was. It was a neat concept. Doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense, and I like Bones's interpretation when he sees it. He's appalled by it.
Yeah.
It's just like, why can't we just go onto a planet or something? Why do we need this stupid godly thing? It's like there's our Keith Urban there doing what he does best, which is being him.
He's in Starfleet. He's surrounded by technology all the time,
and he's so pissed off about it.
Yeah,
yeah.
He
He
has a love-hate thing with his job, where he's like, "Why are we doing this
with everything?
Why can't we just stay on the ground?"
I still think Carl Urban does, or Keith Urban, is it, or Carl Urban. Carl, I always get the two mixed up. One of them is a singer. So Carl Urban, I think, does a fantastic job again. He's barely in the movie, but he does a fantastic job for what he was doing.
Great. He's great in this movie. He understands the spirit of his character, right?
Yes,
very much so. And the writing comes through. I think when an actor knows their character, I think it's easy to write for them, because I think, which we also should acknowledge, this movie was partly written by Simon Pegg,
which I'm sure is part of the problem. Yeah. And I like Simon Pegg stuff, but
I like Simon Pegg. I think he gave it a good go. It's not as necessarily what I understand why they went to him, because he's a successful screenwriter, but he doesn't write these kinds of movies.
No, this is not his forte at all.
Wrote his character much better than the first two movies. Scotty
but this version of Scotty much better. Much better.
Yeah.
He feels like more like the Montgomery Scott we knew, even though he's this dialed up, yelling, shouting,
a little bit anger. Yeah, a lot of anger with him. Yeah.
In this movie.
Right, because they take his sidekick away for most of the movie, which I like his Keener guy or whatever his name is. Like, that guy is overused. We don't need him. He's not that cute.
Well, we still have a scene with him, but I think he's just hacking on something to burn.
Yeah, he's around, but he's not like Scotty's main focus as much as he is in the other two movies.
He's got some like really nasty, like acid COVID or something.
Yeah,
he's like, and then he's like, burning off
on the lock or whatever.
Yeah.
I like him a lot better in this movie too.
Star Trek convenience. There it is again. But it's the movie itself. Uhura isn't nearly as fucking annoying in this movie, but maybe it's because I don't notice her that much in the movie, which is probably a good thing.
She spends most of this movie talking to Crawl.
Yeah, and then also with the Spock and her thing is in this movie, but it's not really a focus of this movie.
Yeah, thank God.
Not throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. And
I like when he's like,
he seems to be a decent enough actor. I'm not familiar with a lot of his work, but from what I have seen of him, he's not a bad actor. But my God, is he fucking annoying in these movies?
He is bad, and you don't sympathize with him. You don't connect with him. He's so far from Leonard Nimoy in so many ways.
Well, they have that scene where they first get to I guess it's to Yorktown, and they're doing their little, like, everybody kind of walks off, and Kirk is reflecting on seeing all these people interacting and stuff like that. And obviously you have that Sulu scene where he's like, oh, we found out he's gay, which is silly, but anyway. But the scene where she comes up and she's like, I want to give you back this convenient plot point that we're going to use later on. I want to give you this necklace back. And he's like, oh no, we don't do that. Not in the Vulcan culture. And it's like, you're just like, I don't even care about you now. Like, what are you doing? Like,
I like the line when Carl Urban Bones says, though, he's like, if the girl says it's not you, it's me, it's definitely you.
It's definitely you. Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, it definitely is.
But that's what I like about Carl Urban's interpretation of him. He's taken Nimoy, but made him just slight. I mean, not Nimoy. Bones. He's making. He's taken Bones, and he's making him just a little bit prickier. Just he's just bringing it up just a little bit. Just enough to make him fun, you know what I mean?
Right, because the original version of Bones, the DeForest Kelley version, was just more, let's face it, like kind of racist against Vulcans, right? So
yeah. Bones is younger here than he is in the show, and he would be a bit more of a dick when he was younger. Like,
he would smooth out a little bit more later on. Yeah, so I kind of like that. I also like, even at the beginning, that opening scene with Kirk, and he's got the little guys like attacking him, and then they beam him back. McCoy says something. I can't remember exactly what he says, but it's totally sarcastic. He's like, "So this went well," or something like that. And then fucking, Kirk's got like blood coming down his fucking face. He's like all ripped up and shit from these little bastards.
I did like after that too, where it's a nod to the original series. He goes, "I ripped my shirt again."
Yeah, I ripped my shirt again.
There are little things I like about this movie, but
there is some pretty funny things in it. You know, to be
I think we have to
honest,
figure out what was wrong with the movie, because I think that there was
A
like
lot.
a lot of good ideas, a lot of great writing. I think that this Crawl character, I think, is a big problem.
any part of this movie where there's no action is pretty good. All the action stuff is terrible.
It's just boring. Like, and they brought in Justin Lin from Fast and the Furious, and I think there was explosions and.
Kirk was on a motorcycle for an unreasonable amount of time. You use the motorcycle to get to the fight. You don't fight on the motorcycle for the entire time.
But Justin Lin is known in the cinematography world as being one of the forefront people to do stunts with vehicles. Like, this is what this guy does, right? So I can understand having the motorcycle scene, but it is way too long. I completely agree. It's like 10, 15 minutes of the movie. And he's literally going around.
Let's have that's good at doing vehicle chases and vehicle stunts in a movie with no vehicles.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ships. Who thought this was a good idea.
But the ships are kind of vehicles.
They are, but he's not really directing much of that stuff. The CG director does that stuff, but it's the I agree with you, Kevin. Like that motorcycle scene is brutal. Like, you're watching it and you're like, okay, cool. He's on a motorcycle. Let's see him like wipe out in 10 seconds and then it'll be cool, right? And it's like literally it's 20 minutes of him driving around. Well, it's probably not 20, but it felt like it.
Probably 20. It's brutal.
But before all the motorcycle stuff,
essentially the same scene to me, like how I feel as Into Darkness when they do the whole scene with the guy where there's no dialogue and he's literally going through his life right up until when he blows up the big fucking building. Like, it's just, you're sitting there and you're like, why am I watching this? Like, what is this adding? Like, I get it. He's on a motorcycle. He's flying around. We know he can ride motorcycles. We've seen that previous. But why does it need to be this long? Like, I can understand
the action, right? Yeah. But like, even that before they get on the planet and they're riding around on motorcycles, there's the space battle where the we'll call them the bees, like Crawl and his swarm of bees.
Yeah, that's what Jayla calls them. Is
Jayla? Yeah, like so.
Bees, yeah.
I know we've talked, like, as friends, we've talked about this in the past where, yeah, great, we blew up the Enterprise again. Who cares, right? This whole action sequence where we're seeing like unnamed characters get sucked down into space and get killed. And
you know what? Honestly, that was it. That scene is probably the only scene in the entire movie, action-wise, that I didn't mind, because it was kind of cool to see the fucking Enterprise just getting obliterated and ripped apart piece by piece. It was kind of cool. I like that myself, but Dave, yeah, there's too many unnames getting killed and stuff like that.
Do you have an emotional reaction to the ship being destroyed in this movie?
Do I have absolutely zero.
Exactly.
Because they didn't have any respect for this ship. They in the last movie, in that abomination, Star Trek Into Darkness, the Enterprise goes from being this big to suddenly being this big. And now, guess what, guys? Back in this movie, it's back to normal size for some reason. Because they made that USS Vengeance so big, they had to make the Enterprise a little bigger to be side by side with it or something. I don't know why. It's dumb. So they have no respect for the ship. So when they blow it up, I'm like, whatever. Like, start over.
Well, when you watch Generations and you see the Enterprise D go down, you're like, oh man, like the Enterprise D is going down. Like it's not coming back.
Even the original Enterprise in Star Trek 3, I think that's in a moment.
Even Star Trek 3, yeah, to a degree, not as bad as the Enterprise D in my opinion, but still is,
Yeah, it isn't because it's not.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have no emotional attachment to the ship at all. I don't care. It's not really a character like it is in the other movies.
I think between those two movies, the reason the D is more emotional when it's destroyed is because the D still looks like the D, but when they blow up the Enterprise in 3, it doesn't really look like the Enterprise anymore.
It's been like majorly upgraded, retrofitted. It's not really the same ship anymore.
That's probably why, yeah. Where the D is the same ship that we all remember and we all watched for numerous episodes, and it was its own character.
And
so
it's a 7-year show we watching the D, right? Versus even the 3 years we only watched. Like 3 years of episodes watching the original. So I don't know. So when they blow up this ship, oh great, I watched this ship in 2 movies. You had no respect for it.
I thought it was cool to see the fucking nacelles getting ripped off and stuff like that. I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, like as far as I think it's a cool battle. I think just how
Exactly.
quickly they're overwhelmed, how poorly Kirk handles this situation because he doesn't.
Everybody handles this situation.
He could have
terribly.
warped out of there as soon as he saw trouble. He could have done things.
The only thing that I don't like about this entire boarding scene, I guess you can call it in a way, is fucking Spock. He's running around with a fucking phaser. They even do that shot of him where he's getting into the turbo lift and he's with McCoy and he's got the phaser and he's like this and he's like, kind of thing. It's like, what? What are you doing, dude? Spock is not the guy who picks up the phaser, in my opinion.
No,
it's
really.
always his character is logic over violence, right? It's just
he'll use a phaser if he.
Well, I'm not saying he doesn't, but it's
not his go-to all the time.
It's not the go-to, and
No,
at this
it's
point,
negative.
their ship is getting ripped apart. Do you really think a phaser is going to fucking help you in this scenario? Your focus should be, either staying afloat or fucking getting off the fucking ship. That's really what it should be.
Well, they still didn't know what to do with this version of Spock. Is he an action hero? Is he intellectual? What is the appeal of this character?
He's kind of stuck right in the middle, isn't he? And that's
we talked about it in
part
the
of problem.
poster, not this poster I have at the background, but the main movie poster. Zachary Quinto is buried in that poster. He's not really.
But he is in these three movies. These three movies revolve around him mostly.
The first two for sure. This one not as much.
Less
but
so.
Still.
Less so.
Less so with this one, yes. But
they try because it's still a Star Trek movie. You still have to have Spock, and there still has to be a Spock story. But it's kind of crazy.
I think there's some things that Quinto has done over these three movies that are nice. I think there is some good.
It's not all
scenes.
bad.
Yeah, it's not like he's terrible, but it's just he's not the fit that we need.
And this is the third movie that he's playing this role, as it is for the rest of the cast. And you can see that certain characters they know their character so well.
Yeah,
they know
they're
how to
evolving
be
well.
their character. Obviously, Pine and Urban are the two number one examples of this. I think even Sulu, is more Sulu in this movie. I think they give him more to do.
Well, he starts turning into a badass in the last movie, and then in this movie, he's really spot on. I think you don't get a lot of them, but you do get some of them. And
I understand who he is. I understand more of who this version of Sulu.
The whole making him gay thing is stupid, though. But
Sulu into Captain Sulu. In this movie.
You can see this
you
guy
can
will
see
be
where
captain.
it would go. Yeah, you can see why he's going to get the Intrepid eventually, right? Celsius, excuse me. You can see that progression happening. Know that this guy is going to be a captain. He's going to be a good captain. He's got it down. He's ready to go, kind of thing. Yeah, so I get that.
Right. So we talked about the action sequence. They all eventually, in various means, they're escape podding off the ship. Scotty gets off the ship in a torpedo. Who else?
Which happens to look exactly like the torpedoes that they were using in the last movie. So I'm guessing they just reused them.
Yeah, it was literally just one of the torpedoes in the last movie, which is whatever. So the result of that is that Scotty kind of gets put off on himself. What is it? Kirk and Chekhov are kind of together. Spock and McCoy are paired off together, and then it's Uhura and Sulu are captured. And
that's what they should have called this movie: Star Trek pairings.
It's kind of what they do.
That's literally what it is. Yeah,
it's not unlike
in a group of two.
I think what they did in Star Trek 4, where they split up the team, right, and they go on their separate missions.
At the beginning of this movie, there is a scene, or not at the beginning, but when they're on the planet there, and it sounds like a pod race. It sounds like Star Wars. It's everything is flying around.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Exactly like the pod racing scene from Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
And then they're all on their own and just walking. And I'm like, am I watching Star Trek, Star Wars, or Lord of the Rings? What the fuck am I watching here?
Why is there so much goddamn walking?
Sorry, and what part stuck out for you for that?
It was it's hard for me to put it in context because I was barely paying attention. It's like when they first sort of crash, and then it's kind of just a shot of the little city that they're in, and
the little kind of village
thing. A bunch of those bee things flying.
Oh, where Krall's base is, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where they're keeping Uhura and all that.
And there's stuff flying around and whatever, and it sounds like a pod race, and I'm like, oh, this is they've used the sound effects from Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
It did sound like it. Yeah.
There's another crewman with them at that base that I forgot to mention because that thing that he has in the opening scene, that Kirk has in the opening sequence that he was going to present to those little goblin guys, that it turns out to be something of significance and something that they were. That's why the Enterprise is here. Yeah. That Krall had manipulated the situation to bring the Enterprise here so that he could steal this artifact because it has some kind of weapon that he can use to do his evil deeds. And so he gives it to this crew woman who has like this bones in her head that can hold the thing in there.
Yeah.
And she ends up being captured. But yeah, I forgot to mention. Not that that's not interesting. I just thought we had to.
It's kind of gross, but interesting.
Yeah. And so when they're all split up, I guess we can talk about them one at a time. Okay, Spock and McCoy on the planet together. Fun, where he's pulling the thing out of him, and
McCoy is fun.
McCoy's fun, yeah.
And they are best friends. They acknowledge it.
Supposed to be.
Yeah, but so are
McCoy
and Kirk.
Yeah, in these movies they play that.
But McCoy, so who is it? No, it's Kirk and Spock that aren't really friends in the same way.
Yeah. They are more so in these movies. They try to push it, and it doesn't.
They're a team, but they're not. Yeah. They're friends. Well,
they're
not
in that scene where they're in the turbo lift, and he's like, we make a really good team, Spock, and Spock's like, yes, Captain, or I think so, Captain, or whatever. Yeah, but it's like. Yeah, you get more of the fact that their friendship is more of a professional level than it is of just being a personal level.
Yeah, one day they'll sing "Row, row, row your boat."
Where Bones is talking to him about his fucking dad, and they're drinking booze. It's like there's clearly a different dynamic there.
Kirk and Spock have those conversations.
No, not in this timeline anyway.
Yeah, and then Scotty is with Jayla because he's kind of off on his own. He runs into some. I guess people Krall's brought here and they're trying to take his stuff, but Jayla saves them and they become friends. And then she's like, I'll take you to my house. And it turns out that the house is the USS Franklin. And I got to say, guys, I love everything to do with the USS Franklin in this movie. I think it was really smart what they did with this. Kind of talk a ship from 100 years ago, like that is here, and this whole like mystery angle, and the fact that they have to get this old ship working again, the fact that their shiny Apple Store ship got blown up in the last.
Now they got to use this grungy looking piece of shit.
Right. I think that like if anything, I think that was like wow, that's what they should have gone for. Not like sleek and clean, but more.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you on that. It's there's too much flash going on with the Enterprise, and that's probably why we don't care about it. Right. We're like, we can just buy another one from Apple. It'll be fine.
And then we got the team of Kirk and Chekhov who are trying to. What are they? They're just trying to get away, really.
Yeah, and this is a dynamic that I've always liked is the Kirk and Chekhov type dynamic that they have in these movies. It's almost like he's like the protege to him in a way. It's interesting, I think.
Yeah. And then Sulu and Uhura, I guess, are the prison team who are trying to fight Krall and all of his guys, his evil henchmen, which I think works for those two characters. I think that they're well used in that role. So,
it's a shame that Anton obviously died. So we won't be seeing any more of him. But I thought he did the character very well for his last performance.
Yeah, because I think that those two are kind of on the action, more of a. They had the what's her name, the woman, the Krall's lieutenant there, whatever her name is. And,
I know what you're talking about.
They figure out finally that she's not a good person. Right?
Clearly,
like she says, "Do you believe every sad story you hear?" or something like that. Which and the whole thing that she was human, right?
Yes.
So she can't speak English anymore? She needs a translator in her neck?
Something going on there.
Yeah, okay. And then...
that's the gist I got from it. I don't think they ever actually told us she was human at one point.
No, it's at the very end where they say... It's
implied.
But no, they say that 3 people survived, and it was like... And then they show at the end on Commodore Paris' screen, they show him and these 2 people.
Oh, yeah,
they're
you're right.
so unrecognizable. You don't one guy's an Asian guy. That's like the other guy who killed Jayla's father. But he's under so much makeup, you don't know that. So it's because by the end, Idris Elba has turned kind of back into Idris Elba, but these two don't.
Yeah, for the whole Yorktown, him running around,
and they're not recognizable actors anyway, so it's not really.
Well, Elba is, but
Elba is, yeah. He's not good in this movie.
Okay, but Jayla, like people wouldn't know who she is.
Can we talk about just Crawl as the villain though? Like, okay, one thing
boring.
is as he's written, his motivations, whatever, but also Idris Elba's performance, which I think is not good.
No, like he phoned this in completely. Like this must have been one of those, like it was probably like a favor. They're probably like, well, we need somebody kind of big to be the villain. You think you could show up? He probably just did it for a paycheck or something. Like this is definitely not like this is a guy who has won numerous awards. He's been in some fantastic movies.
He's also been in Cats. He's also in Cats. Let's not forget.
But there's a lot of people in Cats that doesn't make it. That doesn't make them bad. Just makes them piss poor planners. But this is a guy who's got acting chops. Like this is not like some newbie guy. Like this is.
Well, I don't think Justin Lin knew what to do with Idris Elba because they're like.
Well, and you got to remember, Idris Elba was in. He was in part of the Fast and Furious franchise as well, right? So.
Well, does he do his British accent in those movies, or does he do an American accent?
He's a little bit more British, yeah.
I don't like his British accent. It's like this really weird, like.
I don't think it's his accent. I think that's actually him. I think that's how he talks normally.
Like it's muddled. It's hard to understand. And yeah. Ugh. Kevin, is he a good villain
in this movie?
Like as he's written?
No.
As he's written, the character. No.
No, I literally know nothing about him. Every time he was on screen, I would do something else.
He was so he was a Mako, right? Because you don't watch Enterprise, so you don't have any of this. Okay, so the Makos were like this Earth military before the Federation. He was in that, like kind of like the Marines, and eventually when Earth joined the Federation, I guess they said in this movie they dissolved that organization because they fought in like the Romulan Wars. There was an Earth Romulan War that happened just before the founding of the Federation. And so when that was over, they made him a captain, and I guess he didn't like that. He was no longer a soldier, and
wow,
but like
that was boring.
Wow. And then he crashed on a planet. Only 3 of them survived, and he was mad that they didn't come find him. I guess.
As you all know, I'm a fan of Enterprise, and even I think that this is weak.
Yeah.
It's pretty weak.
And I know weak.
It was not good. Star Trek movies are really good if they are trying to save all of humanity, or if they have a really great villain. And this has neither of those.
It makes no sense. He says that the Federation is an act of war, like that. The whole idea of unity is an act of war. That's what this movie is largely. They could have called this Star Trek Unity. I think Scotty once says says his grandmother has a expression: "You can't break a twig in a bundle," right? Where when you're together, the Federation and all these planets together. And so somehow when the war ended and they promoted him to captain, Balthazar lost it, and then he became Crawl, and he lost all his humanity, and now he wants to kill everybody.
It's so drawn out and silly. Yeah. It's the problem. The thing that makes a lot of the Star Trek movies, as we've seen going through this entire process that us 3 have definitely gone through. The other ones are quitters, but anyway, one thing that we do see, and I think Dave, I think you touched it right on the mark there. We need to have a villain that's understandable, somewhat relatable, and when you have that, you're okay. Or it has to be like it has to be like this big epic issue where Earth is going to be dead. It's like that's kind of where it goes, and we don't care about, like, I don't know about you guys, I'm not going to speak for you, but I don't care about Crawl. I don't give a shit about his motives. I don't care about any of this stuff. So it's, to me, it doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense as to why we even care enough to even watch this movie.
Before I put this on today, I didn't even know who the bad guy was in this movie, until he was on the screen, and I'm like, oh, right.
You can watch this entire movie and really not care about the villain at all. Like, it's more of a circumstance than it is Like we're going based on the fact that the circumstance is the issue here, not actually the villain. Whereas kind of, this is Final Frontier stuff. Like this is where Final Frontier went wrong. We didn't have a clear villain. We didn't know what the villain was
and why he was doing what he's doing. And I still don't. Like, yeah, he wants to kill everybody in the Federation, I guess, but like, and he's just a bad guy.
Supposedly, yeah, like, but we don't really care. Like, yeah, obviously it looks like they've kind of disowned him or abandoned him in a way. But even then, we're like, meh. Like even in Generations, which is a weak villain, let's be honest, Generations is a very weak villain. But at least it's a villain that you can kind of like get the understanding as to why he's doing everything.
Exactly.
It's like, whereas Crawl, you're like, I don't get it, and I don't know why I care. Like, I don't know.
Well, I guess I think it's this character is written as a response to the last movie, because Star Trek Into Darkness was so much more militarized, and it was so much more about like Admiral Marcus creating the vengeance, and he was going to take the fight to the Klingons. And
but at least you knew what Marcus was doing.
I think Krall would have rather been in that version of Starfleet with those guys. But now they're like, no, we're not a military organization. We're more like NASA than we are like the Navy.
Like if they had Krall like take over the Enterprise and start attacking the Yorktown and all that stuff, this would have at least been a little bit more manageable. It would have made more sense. But we have essentially like even fucking Nemesis guys. Nemesis has a villain we at least understand. Like there's nothing in fucking like even Insurrection, for Christ's sakes, terrible villain, but still like we get it.
Right. Because kind of the Remans are who Shinzon's fighting for, even though his motivations are completely Looney Tunes and out there and ridiculous.
Very Looney Tunes, but
like at least we understand he's trying to help the Remans.
Yeah.
For another species I don't care about, but like it's a bunch of people. I'm like, I don't care about these Remans. I met them 2 minutes ago and they seem pretty bad.
Yeah, like I don't care.
They seem not great. Yeah.
Yeah, they seem like not so nice.
Engaging enough to fucking watch it. Like this movie, you're spending, as Kevin said, you're spending a lot of time just not caring and not paying attention. Like there's nothing keeping you hooked to it. Like there's nothing that says I gotta finish this fucking movie. I've fallen asleep trying to watch this movie 3 fucking times now, and it's not like it's like the end of the day or anything. Like I tried to watch it once at like 1 p.m. and I fucking fell asleep. I fucking fell asleep last night. I had to do a quick recap of the ending so I could remember it. Like it's I don't know. And you know what, Dave? I think you hit the nail on the head here when you said, you know what? I watched this in the theater and I've never been really compelled to watch it again. Yeah. And it's like, you know what? You watched it again, you have a little bit more appreciation for some of this stuff, I guess. But
that's about sums it up. Yeah, I would say that I like it a little bit better than I remembered it. I appreciate some of the things they did.
Yeah,
and I like it better than
I never saw this in the theater, but I remember pirating it, which I don't care if anybody's watching and they're pissed off about that. But anyway, I ended up pirating it because generally I pirate every Star Trek movie and then I buy them if I like them. So with that, Star Trek, I remember getting this day one when it came out. The rip came out. I grabbed it online. I was so pumped to see it. I'm like, oh yeah, fuck Star Trek. I want to see where this Kelvin timeline goes. And I'm literally, I remember ending this movie going, what? Like, this is an extension of the Kelvin universe? Like, there's really nothing here. Like, there's nothing here. There's nothing
happens of consequence.
We get a couple of characters that obviously are progressing. Like Montgomery Scott obviously is a big one. Even Chris Pine to a degree, definitely progressing. You kind of get a little bit of the bitterness that Kirk had at times. You get some of that with him in this movie as well, which is kind of nice to see. He's not Mr. Optimistic all the time. So stuff like that. But you got, characters like Spock who literally
they're trying to progress Spock, but it's not working. And Uhura, they are not progressing at all. She is just
no, Spock's but at least they learned. At least they learned and said, you know what, we don't need to have her in every.
They give her more. They give her more like time talking to Idris Elba in this movie to like kind of be like her and Sulu are like standing up to him, but that's it, really. That's all she has to do.
Sulu's a bit of a badass in this, but past that, it's
a little bit more. They get Sulu, right? Because I think Uhura. Wait, what is Uhura's job? She runs the communication station and she speaks languages. So, like, what she figures out that Krall is.
She's the one that puts it together. Yeah.
Which, by the way, his human name Balthazar Edison. Balthazar.
Your
I don't know too many Balthazars. Do you? Other
I don't
than
know.
from
But I'm willing to
Supernatural,
bet he got called ball
it's a pretty
sack in the
old
Academy.
biblical name. It's
How many ball sack jokes did he have to go through in high school? You know?
Yeah, that already became a soldier, wanted to kill everybody.
Yeah. Obviously, he's bitter because he got bullied through high school.
Yeah. Bulbasaur. Edison. Okay.
It sounds like his name should be like a Pokemon character.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the jailbreak sequence, we kind of touched on it, Kirk on the motorcycle, where they kind of have to get everybody out.
Way too long.
Way too long, boring.
Pretty much a good way to say it.
Not exciting.
Again,
okay.
not that interested in it.
I like when
oh, they're getting out. Okay.
I like the whole exercise of them having to get the what's it called, the Franklin, the USS Franklin, off the planet. That's fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fine.
I don't know why you have to go down in order to come back up, but sure, it was fun. I liked that sequence.
I think they were Dave. You're slingshotting.
You're slingshotting. Sure, whatever. It was fun. I liked it.
They're using the gravity, Dave.
And they love to do that scene where the ship goes below the tree line,
disappears, and then it comes back up.
You're like, yeah, you're waiting for like the fireball. One time it should just be like fireball.
Every time
they didn't come.
Every time I see that type of thing,
end the show.
I reference that as the GoldenEye scene, because if you remember GoldenEye, the movie GoldenEye, there was a scene where he jumps into a plane and then he goes down and then it comes back up eventually. Yeah. So now every time I see something like that, I always think it's GoldenEye. It's always that now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a GoldenEye thing. Yeah, you're right. You're totally right about that.
Yeah, it's exactly.
But I like that whole sequence. I like that they have to work together to get this old crap ship, 100-year-old ship, in the air,
which is cool.
Right? The whole thing, just the fact that we built these in space. They were not meant to take off from planets. Cool. Let's give challenges to the
perfectly acceptable.
They're built in space for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, they're called starships.
Yeah.
They're not, right.
These aren't sea ships, guys.
And then so by this point, Krall's already starting his attack on Yorktown, and so I guess they figured out that they're going to jam the B ships with music, with
Beastie Boys.
That's like the whole thing of like this third act fight where they take so Krall's entire fleet is obliterated.
Does anybody else cringe when you see they start the music? They start, what is it? Sabotage by Beastie Boys, and they start it, and they pan over to Kirk, and Kirk goes, "Yeah," like it's like, wow, that's so.
Yeah,
that was the only thing that Chris Pine did in this entire movie that I kind of went.
When they ask if it's classical music.
Yeah, they say it a couple times. This is classical music. I think it is. Now it's a little old fashioned for my taste. And I thought I didn't like that they used sabotage again. I thought
it fit. It worked.
I get why they're trying to.
Good enough, I guess.
Well, I guess they are trying to sabotage their network, so I guess it's more fitting. But I like earlier when they were playing Chuck D and like Public Enemy and
Public Enemy.
I was like, I would have liked if you played that song during the whole thing instead of sabotage.
Clearly, these are people who are making these movies are clearly my age, because all the stuff that they do is all stuff that.
It's also really nice to see that maybe in the future they don't just listen to actual classical music. And
because that's what Star Trek generation
titles and yeah.
It was all jazz or classical when it was in Next Gen.
Yeah. But that's just it with
technology. You couldn't play it. You had to go to a concert hall and watch an amateur. Classical music.
Right. I think we saw Brian playing the violin in one episode, right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, but I do like the whole scene with just everything blowing up with the song. I know it's stupid. I know it's just
kind of going through and fucking it's like basically a ball of flames just fucking going right into all these bee things. That was kind of cool, I thought.
I guess. And all of a sudden, this Krall, this villain with this incredible army behind him, is now just one guy. Right?
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing left.
And you know what? I think that's a frustrating thing about this movie is that the action scenes are neat, but they're boring.
And they're quick. And it was like, all we had to do to defeat them was play some Beastie Boys.
Of Kirk driving a fucking motorcycle around rocks, but I get 2 seconds of them fucking going through these bee things. It's like, oh, guys, come on. And Yorktown, I would have liked to see a little bit more destruction going on there, but I guess that would have cost a lot.
Right. And then once they're in there, like, because Crawl, so he's a human who can take people's energy. Like, he does this vampire thing where he sucks like the life out of you. And when he does this,
I hate this mechanic.
Takes the form of that person, I guess. And
yeah, he's almost like a super Odo.
Yeah, but so that's why in the beginning of the movie he looks like a crazy alien, because I guess he had sucked the life out of some aliens who look like that. But he's not actually a member of that species. And so yeah, now he's kind of he looks like Big Daddy from Land of the Dead. Have you seen that movie?
Yes.
It's one of the Romero zombie movies. There's a character in it who's a zombie who he's Big Daddy on his shirt. He's kind of like the Abraham Lincoln of zombies. That's what this Idris Elba makeup looks like. Very much so.
Yeah, it's very 70s makeup inspired, I think.
Yeah. And like, I think Kirk has a few times he can kill him, but he keeps talking to him like, "You gave us peace, Edison. We love, like, give it up." I'm like, stop trying to talk him out of it. Like, what are you doing? Like, he's already murdered like a good sizable amount of your crew. He doesn't really deserve your compassion at this moment. He's trying to kill millions of people on the Yorktown right now.
Spock would have murdered him there.
There.
Spock would have just murdered him.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know why we had negotiations going on here. It didn't make a lot of sense at this point.
I don't need this.
Like, I don't think in reality anybody's going to be negotiating at this point. Like, it's like you've already done so much damage, and you're about to do
shoot to kill. I would say shoot to kill with somebody who's
kill the guy and be done.
He's literally trying to unleash a biogenic weapon on millions of people, including Sulu's daughter. Kill him, right?
Obviously, yeah.
He's
bad. She's got to helm the Enterprise B. Like, come on.
Yeah, she's got the Enterprise. Demora Sulu. She's got stuff coming up.
Like, she's got shit going on. Like, come on.
Right, but they eventually beat him. They suck him out into space, and he gets eaten. Not only does he get sucked into space, but he also gets eaten up. The whole fight with him and Kirk is kind of long, I think. It's this gravity fight because they're fighting in this place where there's
this furnace thing or whatever. Yeah.
And then that's it, right? Like, that's the end of they have a birthday party for Kirk at the very end, and they get a new ship. The Enterprise A, right? I like that last scene. I like sort of like the like, we're going back out there. Yes, I do want because Kirk turns down the promotion because he was gonna get promoted, just so we're clear, from Vice Admiral from Captain to Vice Admiral by a Commodore. But he turns that down.
29 years old.
Yeah, and he's only 29 years old. Like, but whatever. That I know.
He was a cadet 3 years ago.
Yeah. So he's like, no, captains don't, or vice admirals don't fly. She's like, nope. And he's like, well, what is the fun in that? I'm going back into space. And even just like the final, like the space, the final frontier. These are the voyages, and it's all 7 of them, so including Anton Yelchin, who obviously died after this movie. I felt that part to be emotional. I thought that, like, especially where they went to boldly go where no one has gone before, and they gave that line to Zoe Saldana. I thought that was nice. Just instead of the where no man has gone before from the original series. So I just I think it's a nice ending.
Yeah, it's fine.
And if we never see this crew again,
we won't. It's over. It's been 4 years already.
I don't think you're going to see a new iteration of this crew. No, I think you're going to see. I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to start getting offset movies, like movies where certain characters are the role, instead of the crew. So
this crew is done.
Maybe we'll get a McCoy movie. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think just on the fact
I'd watch Carl Urban as McCoy again. No
Anton Yelchin's gone. I just don't know if they'll ever will. But we got an Indiana Jones movie like 30 years after the other one, and we're getting another one again.
We're getting another one, yeah.
So you never know, but
so well.
Yeah, that's what's so.
You know what? There was some interesting things in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I did like some of it, but it was.
I hated it all.
So
it was pretty brutal.
I fell asleep halfway through and never watched any more.
Basically, if you take the kid out of almost every scene in that movie, you're okay.
Right.
Except for obviously the gopher scene, because that was stupid.
Okay, anyway, Star Trek Beyond.
That's not what this is about.
Star Trek Beyond is over. Star Trek movie rewatches. are over for now until they make another Star Trek movie, which they'll make some Star Trek movie soon.
We're gonna
Made it through it.
Oh, ratings. Let's do the ratings and let's figure out we have to determine what was the best and what was the worst. Okay, let's bring that up. All right,
I'll spoil it. 6.
6.
6 was the best one. Oh no, I'm not doing 6 for my score. Sorry.
Oh,
I meant Star Trek 6 was the best one. This one is Insurrection-ish for me. What did I give Insurrection here? I can't even see it.
you gave it a 3.5.
Oh, it's not that bad. I'm gonna give it a 5. It's mediocre.
Evan?
I have an explanation. I am also going to give this a 5, not for the movie, because the movie is a 1.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
But
I'm only giving it a 5 because there were some cool things in it.
5 for the actors' performances. I thought the actors did a great job in this.
Almost everybody.
Dog shit.
Is Ashley there with you?
Yeah.
Does she have a rating?
1.
1.
That's for the acting.
And that's only because of the acting. Okay.
Jeff's not here. We'll get his rating later. But okay, Jane gave it a 6.5. So that's so far. I'm going to give this a solid 7.
I can't believe it.
Are you on? All right. Anyway.
It's not as good as Star Trek 2009, but it's kind of in that. What did I give? I gave Insurrection a 5.5.
Yes.
What did I give Insurrection? I can't even see it.
3.5.
I like Insurrection.
Oh God, Insurrection is awful. What about Into Darkness? What did I give that? Wow, I actually thought Into Darkness was shittier than this. Okay, I've done something wrong here.
Does anybody want to change their scores?
Yes, I want to change my Into Darkness score.
Into Darkness score? Okay. 2.
Yeah. Put that to a 6. I enjoyed it way more in this movie.
Okay.
Past that, I think I'm good.
Okay, let's try this.
This is getting so small I can't read it.
Sorry.
That's okay. We have the console and everything. This is
okay. So just to
it's like I turned into a podcast and I'm watching Excel.
Sorry, guys. I just wanted to see what was the best movie. So, for some reason. Okay, let's just go over here because I know what this is. Okay, so that means our best movie from our group of people who watch these in and out every week. First Contact takes the gold at 9.4 average. Undiscovered Country is 9.2, not far behind it at second place. And A Voyage Home at 9.1. Then
solid picks.
The next closest after that is Generations at an 8.2. Star Trek 2009 at a 7.2. And after that, it's a lot of bad movies, guys.
So what's the worst one that we did?
The worst one overall is
probably
is Nemesis.
Oh, Nemesis.
2.2.
Which is sad. I completely disagree with that.
So it's got
one is a way worse movie than Nemesis was.
And then 5 and Motion Picture are the same, right?
Motion Picture, yeah, they're 3. They're both at 3. So we consider those to be inferior to any of these movies, even the bad ones. Well, not Nemesis.
Yeah.
Okay, so hey, let's take that down. Yeah, so hey, what an exercise. We can always say what's the best, what's the worst. We have the science behind it.
Wow.
Just so we have this.
I don't know
okay,
if that's science, but all right.
I just thought it was interesting. Like, if you look at like the IMDb and the Rotten Tomato scores for these 3 Kelvin movies, like Into Darkness gets a better rating than Beyond, which I disagree with. But
which it should.
Better movie.
It's definitely a better movie. I still don't know what you're smoking, but anyway.
That's everybody's got their opinions.
That's true.
So, overall, on our averages, they're pretty close. We're saying about a 4.7 versus a 4.9. for Into Darkness and Beyond. So it's the difference here.
I
is
think
very
you also have to remember though that IMDb is also dealing with a different generation.
Well,
So
it's a bigger aggregate too,
people,
right?
the people who watched the Kelvin timeline movies aren't necessarily all fans. Like Candace is not a fan of Star Trek, and she watched all the Kelvin movies. But try to get her to sit down and watch Undiscovered Country, and she'll tell you where to stick it, right? Like it's. So I think some of that is a little bit biased as well.
True. Yeah. No. That's why we look at it, but we don't take it as sort of the.
Well, the thing here is, guys, like we're all different people. We all have different tastes. None of us are right or wrong. Well, except for Dave. Dave clearly Into Darkness is a better movie than Beyond, but it's that's up to you.
You're all out of your minds about that. Like
that's fine.
Into Darkness broke my soul, and like this brought it back.
At least I know what happens in Into Darkness. I watched Beyond like an hour ago. I don't know what happens. And I just did a podcast where I talk about what happened. I still don't know.
You still don't get it. Yeah, it's still one of those movies where you're like, it's such a stupid plot that it doesn't make sense. Yeah, and see, I feel the same way about Insurrection. You guys love Insurrection compared to me, and it's like Insurrection is a garbage movie. I don't know why you guys love it so much.
It was the rewatch that made me appreciate it more because it was all the sound clips I could pull from it.
I rewatched it and went, God, this is terrible.
You're right. It does have the same problem as this movie in that.
Oh yeah,
it's not a good story. Like the bad guy,
but the villain is so ridiculous. Case in point. Did I get that from Idris Elba? No.
That's true.
So,
but you know what? A good movie isn't based on how many sound clips you can get from it, Dave.
I'm starting to think it might be.
Okay. Well, and I think if anything we've learned from this series, and we've done what, 11 of them? 11, 12 of these?
13 movies in a row.
13 movies. Okay, so 13 movies. So that means 13 weeks worth of our time has gone into this.
Yeah.
And the thing that I get out of this, guys, is that I appreciate some of these movies more than I thought I did, but I also think some of them are garbage. And there is a lot of garbage in the Star Trek universe compared to what I thought there was.
Yep.
So
I think that, for me, like this has taught me what I want out of my Star Trek, and more specifically out of my Star Trek movies, but because we do the TV shows and those are different types of stories, but what I like and what I don't like and what I want more of, and etc. Kevin?
Yeah.
I think I'd be okay if they never made another Star Trek movie.
I don't know if I need any more.
They're not doing it right. They're just not doing it right. So just leave it. Leave it for another.
I'm not willing to throw in the towel yet. I think that
I think First Contact is the last good movie. After that, they just start going downhill from there, and I don't think they've ever really totally recovered.
2009, like the first Chris Pine movie, was as close as they have to coming back to something really awesome.
It would have been great if they release a non-Uhura cut. If they released a non-Uhura cut, that movie would be phenomenally better.
Maybe, yeah, just less of her going to Zachary Quinto. Like,
if they just got rid of those two characters altogether, I probably would miss them in the Kelvin timeline.
Yeah. I think just a couple, but I think
you wouldn't have much of a 2009 movie though.
That's kind of one of the things with these castings too. And once you cast these roles, you're kind of locked in with these actors.
And the other thing I got from this rewatch is Carl Urban is a genius. I love him. Yeah.
Right, and they were. I think in terms of casting, they were more than 50% successful in who they picked to take these roles on. But a couple misses in there.
They did get better at their roles as these movies went on. I think they could have done a great show with this cast.
Great. Oh yeah, but these are all movie stars. These aren't TV stars.
A like 3-4 year show would have been awesome with these characters.
Right.
Yeah, I probably would have watched it. I
read some of the comic books, and they were written by Kurtzman and Orchie and the guys who created this version. And
they were people write movies, and let someone good write the show.
Yeah. Don't let the guy who wrote the movies write these.
No, and the guy who wrote these movies and everything else, he's the guy who's running Star Trek right now. So if you don't like Discovery, if you don't like Picard, his name is Alex Kurtzman, and we want him out.
Yeah, we want him out. Dave is starting a protest.
It's not good.
He's not the guy to do it. I'm sorry. Yeah. Rick Berman still alive. See if he wants to come back. Or somebody
You know
else.
what though?
But
Berman fucked up a lot of stuff too, though. So
sure, not
let's
perfect, but
let's be real there.
had good. Even Ira Stephen Burr there are lots of great guys who worked on those shows back then from the '90s who are still alive, working today.
At least fucking consult them or something. Like,
bring these guys in.
Yeah.
And Brian Fuller, who was a guy who worked on Voyager and other shows, he was going to be taking over as showrunner for Discovery, and then they got rid of him because he wanted to make it more Star Trek, and Kurtzman wants to make Star Wars or something.
Well,
and,
I think we're missing the underlying problem here, and that's CBS. Okay.
Yes.
CBS is trying to sell their streaming service. That's really what we're doing here. So when we have a streaming service, they have to cater to how they think the people that are going to be paying the money are going to pay. So that's what they're going for right now. They don't care about the diehard fans.
I get it.
A lot of these diehard fans are going to be downloading it illegally anyway. They're not paying.
I get if you're not a fan of this and you look at it and you go, well, Star Trek maybe has potential to compete with Star Wars. If you go to any department store, how much licensed product you see with Star Wars on it? All over the place. Kids love their Star Wars. Kids don't love Star Trek.
Well, if you go to a dollar store, you can find the figures for this movie. They do have.
Exactly. They've been there for 4 years.
Yeah, and they're all dusty.
Right? This did not sell toys. This was not successful. What they've been trying to do.
If you were a kid and watched this movie, what would you get out of it? Because you would be even more confused as a fucking kid watching this movie. It's just silly. Yeah. Like there's
it's not. It's not gonna last. It's not something you're going to. It's going to stay with you the way it should. But what I do appreciate about Star Trek Beyond is that they tried to put a lot of like the spirit of the Federation, Starfleet, all that into this movie. It just wasn't enough to make it good.
What they should have did was gave me the characters in this movie in Into Darkness, and it would have been a better movie. The progression of the characters in this movie into Darkness would be better.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well,
anyway. All good things come to an end, my friends.
All good things must come to an end. Star Trek movie rewatches, but we are not done here on Live Long and Podcast because you can still check us out weekly with multiple shows. Tuesdays we have our Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatches. We're in the middle of season 1. We're doing an episode called Vortex next, so join with us if you've watched Deep Space Nine yet or not. On Thursdays, we do original series rewatches. Jody, and we have a new addition. Karen Rondeau is part of that podcast now, so check that out. That's quite the show on Thursday nights. And
it's interesting.
And we also, once a week, we have our Star Trek Radio Theater. We've done the last 2 on the Friday nights. We're probably going to do the next one Saturday morning. We're probably going to do next
How did
Saturday.
Yesterday's go? Because I
went pretty well.
Did
it go well?
Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
See, Dave just keeps talking over you, Kevin, so I can't hear what you
say. I thought it was awesome. I enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah? Good. Yeah. I'm going to have to listen to it. I haven't listened to it yet.
Yeah. It was good. And we're doing Trials and Tribulations next from Deep Space Nine.
Is that the one you're doing next?
Yeah, that's the next one.
Ooh, I might have to get in.
You heard it here first.
I might have to get in on that one.
We got some roles.
Because then you got like Kirk in there and everything.
We got Kirk. We got a few characters. We can.
Oh.
I'm Kirk. I'm not giving him up.
Yeah, you have to pry that from.
Come on,
I can remember.
I could do Kirk. Anyway, we'll discuss that.
No, okay. I was too excited to get that on a random draw.
I was kind of jealous when she got Kirk too. To be fair, I have Cisco. If you want Cisco, he's all yours because I don't know what to do.
I don't want Cisco. Cisco sucks.
Yeah. So
anyway,
all right.
We'll talk later about it.
We'll talk later.
Maybe I'll make my debut.
And final plug: Trivial Debates tomorrow afternoon here, not on this channel, but on the Trivial Debates channel, which is all cross-linked on our channels. Chris Seymour hosting, Kevin Millard, Jane Mader, Jeff Mader, all competing. So that's going to be a great one.
I'll be listening and commenting.
Yes, I'll be running the soundboard and things like that behind the scenes. So
I'm going to predict right now, whoever has the shittiest answers are going to win.
Or the funniest answers.
Answers in yet?
Yeah.
You know what? You might still win.
Yeah. Jane's ready. Jane's never competed on Trivial Debates before, and she's excited. So I'm rooting for her.
I'm interested to see how cutthroat she can go.
No offense to Kevin or Jeff.
What? Why?
Because he's rooting for Jane.
Oh, yeah. Fine.
Well, I would hope so. You're married to her. It'd be kind of awkward. You'd be like, "Oh, Jane, I hope you have a good time, but I really want Kevin to win." Like that would be.
Trying to screw her up.
That'd be a little odd.
All right, everybody. Okay, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Yes, I'm glad this is done.
Very good.
No offense to you all, but I watched movies I never wanted to watch again, and there's movies that I'm never going to watch again, like Star Trek 3, Star Trek 5, Insurrection for sure.
Well, at least I think we're all on the same playing field now. We've all said we've watched these movies in order now, and we can say, was that movie better than that movie? We have some qualifying data around that now, which I like.
I also learned that Dave's wrong a lot, but anyway.
Yeah. I've learned this about yourself as well. Weird. Anyway,
I love that. That's amazing. Well done.
I've had so much fun. Thank you both, Ashley. I know you're in the background there. Jane, Jeff, my mom, Mike Dunn was on one of these too. Everybody who's participated in the Star Trek movie rewatches. Thank you so much. This playlist will be added to if they ever do make another Star Trek movie. I know Kevin's hoping they won't, but I hope they do. And if they do, it will be added here. So,
I'm with Kevin.
We hope to see you again, whenever that is. So, all right, everybody. Take care, live long and podcast, and we'll see you on our next broadcast.
Bye.
Bye.